So, this conversation is called Under the Influence of Emotion or on Emotional Addiction. And if you're watching this video, maybe this piqued your interest because perhaps you are addicted to emotions or you know someone who is. Now, some folks may be saying, addicted to emotions? Oh, Pedro, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to put it out here that there is such a thing as being addicted to emotions. But let's back away from being addicted to emotions and look at some more acceptable addictions that people say, yeah, that would count as an addiction. So we can go with alcohol, we can go with drugs, we can go with sex, whatever the case may be. Most of the time, when people get addicted to some kind of substance, it's because they're either trying to numb themselves from a feeling that they don't want to have, or they're trying to obtain or catch a feeling that they do want to have. And so at the end of the day, it's the feeling, AKA the emotion, that is running the show. And so to me, when I say people are addicted to emotions, I think that even if they're addicted to drugs or some substance or sex or whatever the case may be, it's all because of emotions. It's because for some reason or the other, they cannot manage their emotions. And so they're trying to control them using a controlled substance to be able to manage their emotions. But if they were able to rein their emotions in and work with their emotions, they wouldn't need the substance. Or if they use any kind of substance, it would be more with a mindfulness rather than numbing or trying to accentuate or kind of enhance a particular emotion. And so, whenever I deal with people who have extreme emotional expression, I don't judge them one way or the other. We're people, we deal with shit differently. But at the same time, if I'm in their presence and they're trying to pull me into their kind of emotional tidal wave, I treat them like a person that's under the influence of a drug. I look at them and say, okay, this person is under the influence of an emotion. And so the way that they're behaving right now is not who they are when they're centered, when they're clear, or whatever the case may be. It's who they are under the influence of said emotion. And so I have to be mindful of that. And I'm the same way with myself. I try to bear witness to what's arising in my consciousness so that even when I feel an emotion arising, I can be at choice with whether I'm going to express that in front of other people and deal with the repercussions of that, whether I'm going to go be by myself and be present with it and feel the full breadth of whatever the emotion has to teach me, or if I'm going to restrict that motion and put it out somewhere for later because it's just not the right time. Some of that could have been from traumatic experiences that I had that put me in a situation where I learned how to put my emotions in different containers. Because to be honest, when I was younger, I was taught that my emotions were inconvenient. And so I learned to shelve them until I found a better place to kind of express them. And I also went to therapy and different things like that. But for the most part, I have a pretty decent reign on my emotions. And even when people have experienced some of the more extreme expressions of my emotions, it's at a choice. Like I'll get to a point where I say, you know what? I'm going to fully express my emotions right now, generally speaking. That being said, I think that it's important to be aware of what emotions are, how they arise, and how we use them or are used by them. And so, emotions, some people break it down and call it energy and motion. And I think that's a good way of looking at emotions because sometimes something activates you, triggers you, or whatever the word may be. And then you start to feel these feelings. And these feelings are feelings that take you out of homeostasis. And so most people want to get back to homeostasis as soon as possible. And so they try to get those emotions off of them. Some people get them off of them by blaming others, shaming others, taking stuff out on others. And then some people do it by taking things out on themselves, by using substances, etc. That is an option. However, one could also take responsibility for those emotions. They can understand that the only reason why something can trigger you is because you do have some kind of desire, attachment, or something like that to something that makes you then get triggered. You know, if you don't feel anything about anything, then you just don't respond. And so whenever I do get triggered, I bear witness to it and I get curious about it, wondering what is it in my own experience that has me feeling what I'm feeling about what this other person said or did. And then if I can, if I have the time, I generally will write it out. I'm more of a verbal processor, I'm a written processor than I am a verbal processor. Like these videos for me are a trip because my preference is to take about 25 days or 30 days to write out what I think before I say anything to anybody. But recently, because of different time constraints, I've been making more videos than I have been writing. I'll tell you a story. Like once I was working on a conversation project about race with someone, and they wrote me this long letter that came down to they felt like what I was expressing was painting them as being a racist or painting their grandmother as being racist. And I was like, what is this person talking about? Because I did not feel that feeling whatsoever, but it projected it onto me. And I was supposed to give them feedback like within the day or two. But every time I thought about giving them feedback, I also felt like cussing them out. And I was just like, I'm gonna take responsibility for this feeling. I really want to cuss this person out, but what is it that's going on inside of me that has me wanting to cuss this person out? And so I kept writing them saying, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you feedback, but I'm trying to work out my feelings. And so this person happened to be white. So then I ended up checking out this book from the library that basically was about like talking to white people about racism. I read that whole book. Then I thought about everything that I was feeling. And then I went back and forth because this is supposed to be in a professional capacity. And it was a lot of work I put in. I ain't gonna lie about it. But eventually I got to a place where I could understand where he was coming from. And I finally gave this person the feedback. And it was interesting because both of us grew from that experience. Now, would I say that every person should do that? No, I was in a professional capacity working on a project with somebody, and I wanted it to be the best project it could be, not just for the two of us, but for the other people who would be engaging it in the future. And so I was able to communicate to him in a way that he could understand. That's very inconvenient for a lot of people because sometimes a person can come at you with their projections that have nothing to do with you, and you don't know where they're coming from, and you don't have the time to understand, sit there and understand them or read a book or whatever the case may be. In this case, I took the time to do it, but a lot of times we don't. And so then we cut somebody out or we get into our feelings and then it just keeps going back and forth. And now you got two emotional addicts taking out their stuff on each other. My uh, invitation is to bear witness to what's arising with you and to the degree that you can take the time to understand what's coming up for you. Because if you don't, it's just going to start ping ponging all over the place. And so, yeah, try not to do that because we see what that looks like when you look at the news every day. That's a lot of people that's on under the influence of emotion. A lot of people who have felt cheated by life or whatever the case may be because they got sold a story that invoked a certain emotion for them, and then they came down from that high and realized, like, dang, I'm excuse me, uneducated, like dot 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 dot, and my life doesn't match the dream that I was told I could receive here, and so, or I was entitled to. So now it's somebody else's fault. And so they go take it out on somebody else. That's what a lot of us do. But we need a world where people can actually take responsibility for the things that arise inside of them. That's the new frontier to me, is to be able to be an explorer of your own internal landscape and witness what comes up for you, witness what arises for you and what you want to do, what your impulses are with that energy that comes up. And then be intentional about it, be creative about it, and then use what you've created to actually serve other people. Like that's what I'm doing with these videos. That's what I'm doing when I write things is I take all the things that come up for me, like all the stuff that I've been processing recently. It's been a lot, but I've done my best to not take these intense feelings and then let them out on somebody else, but rather witness what's arising inside of me and then take that emotional awareness and be present with it and then create from it as opposed to going into reaction. And then what happens is when you kind of go into reaction, your brain tries to justify that reaction. And then once you justify that reaction, that creates a sense of dependency. And now you got to keep finding like things that will cause you to have those same kinds of emotions. And then that's how you become addicted to the emotion because you end up saying like, oh, I got this feeling, this rush, whatever it is from this energy. I don't want to take responsibility for it. I got to justify the fact that I haven't felt it at all. And then you go out and you seek other people to help you justify having that same feeling. And sometimes you cause it. A lot of times people start shit because they're addicted to an emotion and they need a reason or justification to express that emotion. And so they'll either get in relationships with the same kinds of people that triggered them in the past, or they will just push somebody else until they react in a way that justifies them expressing the emotion that they want to express, just like a crackhead. So that with all that, my invitation to you is that if you find yourself operating under the influence of emotions in an addictive kind of way, bear witness to it. Like, look at the emotions that happen in your life. Like, how frequently do you express the same emotions over and over and over again? If you find yourself expressing those same emotions or repeatedly, chances are you're addicted to it and you're basically causing other people to be your dealer or your handler or whatever the case may be, because you are so addicted to the emotion. You need something to cause that stimulus, and you're going to find somebody to do it, just like a person looks for a drug dealer. Sorry to reveal to you that you're probably a addiction addict. If this is your first time hearing this and you're feeling some feelings about it, if you're feeling some feelings about it, it's probably because it's a little bit true for you. It's a little bit true for all of us, but it doesn't take much to become mindful and get sober. And sobriety from an emotional standpoint doesn't mean you get rid of all your emotions and you become a robot. People used to say that about me. They used to call me Mr. Spock, say I was a robot and stuff, because I was always witnessing my emotions, and instead of emoting and expressing them, I would go write them all out and get them, like, look at them with a sober mind, and then kind of be at choice about what I wanted to express and what I didn't want to express. And people said humans don't do that. So this is me making these videos, is actually me being human, I guess, and doing it in real time as opposed to writing it out. But I got still a lot to write out. I've been writing ever since I found out about my brother being killed. I've been writing this thing about rage, and it's been a month or something, and I still haven't finished it, because every time I do, I actually start to go into rage, and I don't want to put it out there that way. I want to put it out there as informative, but not as destructive. And so I've been trying to kind of curate it and make it um, kind of express what I want to express without putting out any kind of toxicity, which means I may never put it out. I've written thousands and thousands of pages that I've never seen the light of day because it was parts of me processing, but I could feel that it still had the twinge of whatever um, toxicity that was there, and I just didn't want to pass it on to other people. So I just kind of worked on it myself, and some of it I'm still working on. But what I have processed in the most healthy manners I can, that's what I share with you. And I understand when all of us can't do that, but for those of us who can, I think it's a benefit to our society and a benefit to ourselves when we do it. So if you see this, thank you for watching. If you get anything out of this, please share. If you find yourself addicted to emotions, there's help. I don't know if there's like a 1-800 number or something like that, but reach out to me. We can talk it out, or find a therapist or a chaplain or someone you can talk to, someone who can be present with you as you express these things in a way that can kind of be cleaned and cleared and reflected on. And so then you can bring more of your truer self out into the world, because we live in a society that wants us to always be jacked up on emotions and high, because then this part of our brain shuts down and our prefrontal cortex, and then we can't make good decisions, and then we just do what we see a lot of us doing. So anyway, that's my little piece for today. Thank you for your time.